If you're a die-hard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. In the high-stakes, pressure-filled world of professional football, narratives are shaped in moments, in the bright lights of the NFL draft, in the silence of locker rooms, and in the quiet wisdom exchanged between generations. One such moment recently unfolded involving two quarterbacks at opposite ends of the spectrum. Tom Brady, the most decorated quarterback in the history of the sport, and Shedeur Sanders, a young, hungry prospect stepping into the NFL spotlight amid intense scrutiny and emotional turmoil. For months leading up to the 2025 NFL Draft, Shedeur Sanders had been a constant subject of speculation and debate. Analysts, scouts, and fans alike projected him as a likely first-round pick, some even whispering about the top 10. His performances at Colorado, under the tutelage of his father, Deion Sanders, were nothing short of electrifying. Whether it was his poise in the pocket, his ability to read defenses with precision, or his charismatic leadership, Sanders appeared destined for an early selection. However, the draft has a way of humbling even the most celebrated prospects. One by one, teams passed on Shedeur. The first round came and went. So did the second. By the time the fifth round arrived, the energy in the room where Sanders waited had palpably shifted from nervous excitement to stunned disbelief. And then it happened. With the 144th overall pick in the fifth round of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns selected Shedeur Sanders. It was a fall that sent shockwaves across sports media. Commentators debated what went wrong. Was it the system he played in, the questions about his adaptability, or perhaps the overwhelming presence of his father in the football ecosystem? Whatever the reason, Shedeur was now a fifth rounder, and the world was watching to see how he'd respond. But for one man, the story was all too familiar. Tom Brady, who many consider the epitome of excellence and perseverance in professional sports, watched the draft unfold with his usual calm demeanor. Sitting beside fellow Hall of Famer Michael Strahan during the broadcast of the later rounds, Brady saw Sanders' name flash across the screen. Not as a top 10 selection, not even as a day 2 pick, but in the fifth round. In that moment, Brady wasn't disappointed, outraged, or even surprised. He was reminded of his own past. And with that, he offered a piece of advice to Sanders that carried the weight of championship rings, MVP awards, and countless comeback victories. According to Strahan, who later shared the exchange during a segment on Good Morning America, Brady's reaction was immediate and sincere. "It doesn't matter where you're picked," he said, with the kind of quiet conviction that only someone like Tom Brady could convey. It was a message that stripped away the noise, the media frenzy, the comparisons, and the stigma. It was a truth forged from Brady's own experience when he had been drafted with the 199th overall pick in the sixth round of the 2000 NFL Draft. A pick so low that few even noticed or cared at the time. What mattered then and what matters now for Sanders is what comes next. Brady's rise from near anonymity to NFL royalty is the stuff of legend. He didn't just make a team, he became the standard by which all future quarterbacks would be judged. 7 Super Bowl titles, 3 MVP awards, 15 Pro Bowl selections, and an unwavering commitment to self-improvement and competition. He wasn't handed greatness. He clawed his way to it, inch by inch, against all odds. And in Brady's eyes, Shedeur now has the same chance. Not the same story, but the same opportunity to write his own chapter in NFL history. The two quarterbacks aren't strangers. Over the past few years, Shedeur Sanders and Tom Brady have developed a mentor-mentee relationship that has quietly grown beneath the media radar. Brady has shared insights with Sanders, not just about mechanics or game film, but about a mindset required to endure the grind of an NFL career. He's taught Sanders how to carry himself in the face of criticism, how to focus amidst distraction, and how to lead men at the highest level of competition. It's a relationship that has given Sanders a unique glimpse into the psyche of a winner. In college, Sanders frequently invoked the phrase Brady mode when describing his clutch performances. It became a calling card of sorts, a way to honor his mentor while signaling his belief in his own ability to deliver under pressure. When opposing teams left time on the clock, Sanders didn't panic. He embraced the moment. Too much time, he'd say, echoing the sentiment Brady had made famous throughout his career, whether it was against the Rams in the Super Bowl or the Falcons during that unforgettable comeback. Now the stakes are higher, the field is bigger, the spotlight is brighter, and the label fifth-round pick will follow Shedeur Sanders like a shadow, just as it did for Brady 2 decades earlier. But here's the truth that Brady understands better than most. Draft position is a snapshot, not a sentence. It's a starting point, not a definition. The NFL is littered with early-round busts who never lived up to expectations, and late-round gems who redefined what was possible. What separates one from the other isn't talent alone. It's resilience, preparation, mental fortitude, and a relentless drive to prove that the scouts got it wrong. For Sanders, Cleveland represents both a challenge and a chance. The Browns are a franchise with a passionate fan base, a rich, if tumultuous history, and a roster full of pieces that could be molded into something formidable. But they're also a team searching for stability at the quarterback position, for a leader who can carry them through adversity and into contention. Sanders has the chance to be that leader. He has the pedigree, the personality, and now, thanks to the draft, the chip on his shoulder that fuels so many NFL legends. Brady knows that chip well. It drove him in the weight room. It fueled him during lonely off-season throwing sessions. It echoed in his mind whenever someone doubted him, dismissed him, or tried to replace him. And it still lingers even in retirement as a reminder of where he came from and what he overcame. So when Tom Brady looked at Shedeur Sanders, he didn't see a disappointment. He saw a mirror. He saw a young man with talent, fire, and now, perhaps most importantly, something to prove. In the days since the draft, Sanders has remained relatively quiet, at least publicly. But those close to him say he's more motivated than ever. He's studying film with renewed intensity. He's hitting the gym earlier, staying later. And he hasn't stopped talking about Brady mode, not just as a phrase, but as a mindset, a mission, and a mantra. Because now it's not about going Brady mode in the final 2 minutes of a college game. It's about living Brady mode. Every practice, every snap, every season. It's about transforming the pain of falling in the draft into the power of proving people wrong. It's about carrying the lessons of a legend into a career that is still unwritten, but filled with potential. Tom Brady's advice may have been simple, but it wasn't small. It was a reminder of what's possible when talent meets preparation, when humility meets hunger, and when a fifth-round pick refuses to believe that his story is already set in stone. Shedeur Sanders now walks the same uncertain path that Brady once did. And if he listens, truly listens to what his mentor is saying, then maybe, just maybe, he'll discover that greatness has nothing to do with when your name is called, and everything to do with what you do after, enjoying the content. So far, smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. It's the kind of headline that makes you stop whatever you're doing and check your phone again just to make sure it's not some elaborate prank. But no, it's real. Patrick Mahomes, the face of the Kansas City Chiefs, the quarterback who redefined what it means to play the position in the NFL, has signed with the Cleveland Browns. In a move that has sent shockwaves through every corner of the football world, Mahomes is officially leaving the team he led to 3 Super Bowl victories, including back-to-back titles, to join one of the league's most historically cursed franchises. And if you think this is just about money, think again. This move is about legacy, control, and a fresh start. It's about shaking up the NFL in a way that hasn't been done in decades. To understand how we got here, you have to rewind, not just a few weeks or even a few months. This story goes back to the quiet rumblings that began after the Chiefs' last Super Bowl run. Despite their success on the field, all was not well behind the scenes. Whispers of internal tension between Mahomes and the front office had begun to surface. Disagreements over roster decisions, philosophical clashes over the offensive scheme, and Mahomes' growing desire to have a seat at the decision-making table all built up over time. Patrick Mahomes wasn't just a quarterback. He had become an institution in Kansas City. And institutions, as we know, don't always play well with others when power starts to shift. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, something was brewing. The Browns had been searching for a quarterback savior for decades. From Tim Couch to Baker Mayfield, from Johnny Manziel to Deshaun Watson, it had always ended in disappointment, controversy, or mediocrity. But under new ownership, with a completely revamped front office and coaching staff, the Browns were quietly building something different. They had talent on both sides of the ball, a bruising offensive line, a stout defense with playmakers at every level, and a fan base starving for glory. What they lacked was a quarterback, a leader, a superstar, and they had the money, the vision, and the desperation to go after the biggest name in the game. The negotiations were secretive, surgical, and stunningly swift. Mahomes' camp had already grown weary of Kansas City's reluctance to give him more input into organizational decisions. He wanted to be more than just the guy who threw the passes. He wanted to be part of the future building process, to have influence over the type of offense that would be built around him, and to know that his voice mattered when it came to coaching staff decisions. When Cleveland came calling, not just with a record-breaking contract offer, but with full transparency, creative control, and a promise that he would be the face of the franchise in every sense of the word, Mahomes listened. And just like that, the unthinkable happened. Patrick Mahomes, at the absolute peak of his powers, walked away from the Kansas City Chiefs and signed with the Cleveland Browns. The deal? 10 years, $685 million, fully guaranteed. But more than the money, Mahomes gets input on roster construction, offensive philosophy, and even the hiring of future coaches. He's not just the quarterback, he's the architect now. The NFL is a league built on parity, but Mahomes has always been a disruptor. His arrival in Cleveland is not just a signing, it's a signal. A signal that the Browns are done being the punchline, that they are ready to compete not just for playoff berths, but for championships. And with Mahomes under center, they now have the ultimate weapon. Think about what he did in Kansas City with Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Andy Reid. Now imagine what he could do with Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, David Njoku, and a top 5 defense to back him up. The possibilities are frightening, and yet, this story isn't just about football. It's about ambition, about control, about a player taking the reins of his own career in a way rarely seen in professional sports. Mahomes saw the writing on the wall in Kansas City, a team looking to evolve without necessarily giving him a louder voice. A front office that, despite all the winning, still saw Mahomes as a piece of the puzzle rather than the centerpiece of the franchise. So he walked, boldly, defiantly, and with the kind of confidence that only someone who's already done it all can have. For the Chiefs, this marks the end of an era. They will be fine eventually. They always are, but there's no replacing a player like Mahomes. Not in style, not in substance, and certainly not in leadership. He changed everything about how they operated, about how defenses play them, about how quarterbacks are evaluated. The ripple effect of his departure will be felt for years, if not decades. There will be questions about what went wrong, about how they let this happen, about whether they'll ever get back to that level again. For Cleveland, though, this is a rebirth. A franchise long mired in futility has just pulled off the greatest coup in modern football history. They didn't just sign a quarterback. They signed the quarterback, the one every team in the league would trade for in a heartbeat. The one with a cannon for an arm, the creativity of an artist, and the mind of a coach. And now he's theirs. Not for a season, not as a stopgap, but as the new face of the franchise. The man who will lead them into a new era. The reaction from around the league has been electric. Players, fans, analysts, everyone has something to say. Some are calling it betrayal. Others see it as the boldest career move since LeBron took his talents to South Beach. But one thing is clear, the NFL landscape has shifted. The AFC North, already one of the toughest divisions in football, just got a whole lot scarier. Mahomes versus Burrow, Mahomes versus Lamar, Mahomes in the freezing wind of Cleveland in December, not just surviving but thriving. This move isn't just a story for the offseason. It's the story of the decade. Mahomes is betting on himself in a way few superstars ever do. He's leaving comfort, history, and legacy on the table to chase something more personal, control over his destiny. And if there's one thing we know about Patrick Mahomes, it's that when he bets on himself, he usually wins. So now, all eyes Turn to Cleveland, a city that hasn't seen a football championship since 1964, a city that has endured heartbreak, dysfunction, and more false dawns than it can count. But that city now has Patrick Mahomes, and with him comes hope, belief, and a legitimate shot at glory. No matter what happens next, one thing is for sure: the NFL will never be the same again. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!